Episodio número 11. Esto es Pod Queens Latinas con Marieli Silvet, donde se reúnen los podcasters exitosos para compartir ideas, estrategias y herramientas para llevar tu podcast al próximo nivel. Bienvenida a este nuevo episodio de Pod Queens Latinas. Te habla Marieli Silvet y quiero darte las gracias por compartir conmigo una vez más este espacio en el que nos reunimos una vez por semana para conversar sobre podcasting. Si esta es la primera vez que escuchas este programa, quiero darte la más cordial bienvenida e invitarte a que escuches nuestros episodios anteriores en los que compartimos distintas estrategias y herramientas, así como otras entrevistas interesantísimas. En este episodio te comparto una entrevista muy especial que le hicimos a la pareja de podcasters Dania Ramos y Michael Aquino, ambos puertorriqueños que residen en New Jersey y son los productores de Timestorm, una serie de ficción en podcast. Además, su programa Timestorm fue uno de los 6 podcasts escogidos en el 2018 para el Google Podcast Creator Program, un programa en el que recibieron fondos y además 20 semanas de mentoría con la compañía PRX. En esta entrevista, ambos nos cuentan un poco sobre el proceso creativo detrás de la producción del programa. Nos comparten además cómo utilizan sus talentos creativos, las herramientas y los equipos que utilizan para producir el programa. Y terminamos nuestra conversación hablando un poco sobre los programas favoritos de podcast que ambos escuchan. Te invito a escuchar esta entrevista hasta el final porque está interesantísima. Y si a lo mejor tienes en mente o conoces a alguien que le gustaría producir un programa de ficción en podcast, no debe perderse esta entrevista. Que la disfrutes. Bienvenidos, gracias por aceptar mi invitación.
Thank you so much, Marieli. We're so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yo estoy muy contenta de que estén aquí y esta es una entrevista que estamos haciendo en Spanglish.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yo hago las preguntas en español y Dania, y tenemos aquí también a su esposo Michael Aquino. Ellos son los productores del programa Timestorm.
Hello.
Y nos van a estar hablando un poquito de qué se trata este podcast tan interesante. Yo lo escuché completo.
Oh, nice.
Minisodes.
Oh, thank you. Great.
Así que me gustaría que nos hablen un poquito sobre ustedes. ¿Quiénes son ustedes? Dania Ramos y Michael Aquino. Y que nos cuenten un poquito de lo que es Cocotazo Media.
Sí, gracias. My name is Dania Ramos, and I'm a writer, a teaching artist, and a podcast producer.
And my name is Michael Aquino, and I am a musician, a teaching artist, and a podcast producer as well.
And Cocotazo Media is based in Bloomfield, New Jersey. And we produce audio drama and music by artists of all backgrounds. We currently produce Timestorm. That is our main series that we're working on right now, the main podcast. And that is about twins from Newark, New Jersey, who travel back in time to preserve Puerto Rico's history. We also have another podcast, which is called Cocotazo Audio Theater.
Lo vi.
Gracias.
¿Y hace cuánto tiempo llevan produciendo estos programas de ficción para el formato de podcast?
Yeah, in terms of podcasts, we actually started producing audio drama back in 2016, but we did it a little different. We didn't have it as a podcast at the very start. We actually just wanted to dip our toe in, so we produced 2 miniseries as 3 to 5 minute episodes. And so there were 2 different ones. Mine was I wrote one called Hot Drinks. And then we had one written by another playwright. His name is Ernio Hernandez, and he wrote The Last Call. So these were short little pieces that we wrote, and we put them out on SoundCloud just to see what it was like to produce it, get feedback from people, see how they were interested. And then we decided, we want to do this. We want to make a podcast. And so we launched Cocotazo Audio Theater, and those were our first 2 episodes. So we took those 3 to 5 minute little tiny episodes, put them together, and then I think Hot Drinks ended up being just under a half hour, and as well as The Last Call. And then from there, we kept producing pieces.
Yeah, we after that, we continued producing pieces, and we learned. And in 2018, we created a season of works written by Puerto Rican writers. Okay. And one of the episodes was called Open Mic Puerto Rico, and it was 4 soundscape poems that paid tribute to the island after Hurricane Maria.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Timestorm is now produced for kids, right?
Yep, it's kids and family.
Okay. ¿Cómo entonces llegan a crear Timestorm? Yo pienso que Timestorm es como primero estaban haciendo estas pruebas y de repente llegan a algo superior, ¿no? Todos esos esfuerzos que habían hecho en un inicio, como que se consolidan cuando crean Timestorm. ¿Nos puedes contar un poquito sobre eso?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So Timestorm actually began as a proposal for a stage play. It was a contest that was running in New Jersey, and it was a contest to write a stage play for children about New Jersey history. And it didn't move forward as a stage play. I had put it down for a little bit. And then Michael and I really started listening to a lot of audio drama. There's a lot of really good stuff out there, independent stuff. And I looked at this proposal again in a new light. And I stepped away from the single story, and I realized there was something else to be had there. In particular, the 2 main characters were always, Boricua kids from New Jersey. And instead of them going back in time and finding out about New Jersey history, we asked ourselves, well, what would that mean if they were going back in time to find out about their own ancestors and their own culture and heritage? So that's how it came about. And we really started developing it in 2016. Yeah, so we were developing it. And then when Hurricane Maria happened, we were in the midst of trying to develop the piece. And we knew we couldn't ignore this event. This was such a huge event for the entire community, both on the island and stateside, that we knew we had to incorporate it in some way. And so it was really important for us to set the present day contemporary storyline for the twins in September. It starts in September 2017. So that was really important. And that's what we did.
You know that when I was listening to that second episode, when they were listening to the news, I got goosebumps because I was transported to that moment. We were also scared when we heard news about this Category 5 hurricane. So I relived everything through your episode. It was like so real. So I even, my eyes went all teary when I was listening to it.
Yeah. And no, go ahead. Sorry.
But I appreciated that you took such a significant event and turn it into something creative and fun and significant for our history as Puerto Ricans. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot to hear that. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that it was an accurate representation for sure. And, the cast is well represented. So it meant literally we would have conversations, cast members would have conversations about their own families and how their own families were recovering or dealing with it. So it's certainly a personal story to tell. So that means a lot. Thank you, Marieli.
So you both guys are Puerto Ricans, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So my mom's family is from San Sebastian and Isabela, that area. And my father's family was from Calle. And I grew up, we went there a lot. We spent time with the family, So I actually got to spend quite a bit of time on both sides of Puerto Rico.
Nice.
and my father grew up in Lares, and my mother is actually, she passed away, but she was from Cuba. Like Dania, grew up in New Jersey, but then traveled to Puerto Rico to see family, and my uncle, who was one of my last family members that lives in Lares, actually passed away this past year. And, we, back in 2015, 14, that was the first time I had been to Lares. I had been to other parts of Puerto Rico, but never to Lares. And I've been there, and I went there and I got to see him before he passed away. And that was a very significant and powerful moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So could you briefly describe a little bit about your creative process behind Timestorm?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we developed the series itself for a couple of years before we started production. And part of that included, there were the first 2 episodes, which we were considering our pilot episode, which really launched the series. We actually had a public reading of that, and were able to receive some feedback, and then went back and kind of revised from there. And so once we got into actually producing the piece, typically what happens is I'll spend a couple of weeks writing an episode itself. And that includes getting some feedback. Either we'll have a private reading with some friends just to hear it out loud, or I'll bring it to a play reading group, and then I'll revise it from there. Then we go ahead, cast actors. We have a main cast, but then sometimes there are other roles that come up, so we have to cast those actors. We use a lot of professional actors from New York City. We have a lot of actor friends. And I happen to have a lot of young, talented actors in my own family, which has been amazing to really be able to feature them in the younger roles. And so, yeah, we cast, we schedule them, they come in, we record in a home studio, and then it goes on to post-production. Michael can talk a little bit about post-production.
Yeah, then after that, we essentially edit. I edit all the audio together, and I'll mix it. Actually, I'll edit it and then have Dania listen to it, once or twice, and then we'll go back and forth on some editing changes. Then what I'll do is I'll mix it, and then I'll begin to add Foley, like all of the sound effects and all of the music, and then I'll mix and master. And one of the last things I do, which is so important for me, is we take it into the car and we go for a ride and listen to it, because that's the worst place to listen to anything is in the car. And then if it sounds good in the car, we figure it sounds good anywhere else. So, and then after that, we publish it, and then we begin promoting it.
I love that. Listen to it in the car.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst place to listen to it.
Well, it's particularly for like soundscaped audio fiction, in particular, where sometimes the levels of, for example, if we're in the Timestorm and you're hearing the helicopter, the helicopter is in the Timestorm, you lose a level when you go in the car because you hear the car noise and everything. So it's certainly a good test to make sure that we have the levels.
It's got to be good enough to be listened to it in a car.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
And the sound effects are amazing. And all the music behind it. And you even wrote the song, right? The theme song?
That's right. Yeah. We, all of the music so far has been created by me. So I've created all of the music and all the little transition music, all the theme song, like you said, that was written by me. So I was a musician. I am a musician. So I use a lot of what I've learned creating music in Pro Tools. I've figured out ways of creating these different ways of transitioning music and using music in audio drama.
That theme song has like a 70s vibe to it.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I've never heard 70s. I've heard 90s, but never 70s. I like it though.
And I thought maybe because Horacio.
Yeah. I see.
That's what I thought.
Oh, that's a good theory. But it's a little bit of everything. It's a little 90s. It's a little now. I try to mash up a lot of things when I record my music. Yeah. Thank you though. Thank you.
Good job. And I love that you have professional actors doing the voices of the characters. And how many people are involved in the recording and the production of these episodes?
So Michael and I wear a lot of hats. So we're doing a lot of roles, but we actually do have a guest writer who's written a couple of episodes for the first season. His name is Andrew. He's based in Boston, and he writes for children on stage, theater for young audiences on stage. So he's also part of the team. And then our cast, we have a main cast of like 6 actors, but then the entire cast, including all guest actors, I think we're about above 30 at this point. So that's a lot of people involved. Yeah. Some of them come in and out. They'll be in this episode or that episode. And some are just in 1 or 2, and then that storyline ends. So it's definitely a growing family.
Wow. That's amazing. How do you get to the Google Podcast Creator Program?
So this is this great program. We're actually just finishing up our 20 weeks with this program. I think back in the fall, I believe it was, I saw it on Twitter, and then also on the Women of Color podcasts group on Facebook, which is a really great group, great resources there. Okay. And we applied. We had already been in production, and we were like, well, we don't know. Is this for people who have already started production? Can we apply? And we just did. And when we found out in December, and we were just so overjoyed because it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's 20 weeks of training. We started with boot camp in Boston. That was an entire week. We're one of 6 podcast teams. Mm-hmm. And we're just learning a lot, meeting a lot of great people. We have this core group that, of support now with this cohort. We also learned a lot about like marketing and how to treat the podcast and Cocotazo Media in general as a business. And that was something we were really looking to learn, just because our background is in theater, and we didn't know, that wasn't our strength. Business was not our strength. Okay. So it's been great to learn a lot about it. Yeah.
I see that you conducted a survey online to ask listeners about more information about the podcast. And can you tell me what was the response to it?
Yeah. So that was actually part of one of the things that we did. Was we had several productivity stretches. We had creative reviews in the podcast creator program. I just want to add that the training is by PRX. They're great. They're wonderful, based in Boston. So the PRX training team asked us to conduct some what's called empathy interviews as part of the process. So the survey was part of that, and we received some feedback, but we also did one-on-one interviews as well, where we were interviewing parents and kids in our target age group, which is 8 to 12 years old, really just diving deep as to, well, for the kids, what do you love to listen to? What stories make you excited? What do you like to do in addition to listening to stories? What's your favorite way to listen to a story? And with parents, what are the themes? What do you want to see in a story for your child? And a lot of other things in terms of, do you listen to podcasts? Is this the first time you're listening to a podcast? Where would you listen to a podcast if with you or with your family? And one of the answers, of course, is in the car. So, and it also included us going into a classroom with 7th graders and talking to them about having them listen to pieces of it. And they had never listened to it before. For many of them, it was the first time experiencing a podcast. And so we just kind of had a chat like, okay, what was that like to experience something without visuals? And they were very responsive. It was very interesting to kind of get that feedback as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what values do you wish to communicate through Timestorm and your work as a scriptwriter?
So in particular for Timestorm, I think bravery is a huge value and theme that we want to cover. And we are covering both in, obviously, there's this epic story where the twins are traveling back to other centuries to do these things. And so there's a sense of bravery there, but there's also in the present day storyline, there's some fear that the kids are dealing with. A fear in terms of what's happening with with Puerto Rico and the hurricane, also in their school lives, they're dealing with seventh grade and all that comes with,
bullying and
everything. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Terrible.
Terrible and sometimes exciting and thrilling, of course. But what does it look like to be brave in both of those situations for our main characters who are 12? And in particular, to do something that maybe you're scared of and going after it and doing it anyway. And certainly, I mean, this idea of reclaiming and preserving one's culture and history is just something that shows up in Timestorm. And I think a lot of the pieces we produce and also a lot of my scripts in general. Yeah, that's just so important. And I think that reclaiming and preserving the culture and history looks like a lot of different things. So that's, I think, one of the things we're trying to make sure that in the present day, the characters are aware of that as much as they are aware of it when they are going back in time. So yes, there's a literal thing of it. We're going back in time and we're getting this physical thing, but also there's something to be said about being aware of how we can preserve our culture today.
Yep. Very, very important. And with which of the characters do you identify the most?
I would say I identify most with Sonia. Actually, it's funny because I feel like she's really active. She likes creating and doing a lot. But she has a big heart, and she loves her friends and her family. So that's kind of like me. I feel like I like to do a lot. I love creating things, and I'd like to think I have a big heart, and I love my friends and family. So I very much connect with her.
And Dania?
So this is a hard question. So I'm going to cheat and say two, just because I'm going to go with Alexa and Benny, our main characters.
The twins.
Yeah. And I do want to say that what I'm hoping is coming through in the way that I'm writing them is that, so I want them to be real brothers and sisters, that they get frustrated, they argue, they're brothers and sisters. They make fun of each other a little, but there's a real bond. There's like a genuine bond between them. And I think that they also balance each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think that they will continue to grow and understand that when they have to go back in time. Okay, we're going to join together, put our strengths together, and make sure we can achieve what we need to achieve. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun writing them, and the actors are really amazing and bringing them to life. So I'm going to say Alexa and Benny.
Yeah, they do a great job. And what's been the biggest challenge for you to produce this audio drama series?
I'd say for me, and I think I could speak for both of us, is that we want more time. We just want more time. We want to be able to do a lot, and with everything you have to do in your life, between us sharing the responsibilities of everything, it takes a lot of time. So we wish we had another, day in the week to help us.
We wish we could go into the Timestorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add that, like, specifically in terms of producing an ongoing series with a large cast, like scheduling is always interesting. We had the opportunity through the program to revisit the first 5 episodes. We're actually reproducing them, that we're going to be relaunching in August.
Yeah.
And the way, in talking to one of our mentors, Jonathan Mitchell from The Truth, here based in New York City. So, and he's one of like the masters of audio fiction. He opened our eyes about the importance of really making sure that when you have certain scenes, having all the actors in the room together. And so we are taking that to heart. And that definitely is a little more challenging in terms of scheduling, but we're making it happen. Yeah. So time.
Do you use any tools, any like project management tools to help you with all the process to create the program?
Yes. So I got all kinds of spreadsheets. So I use a combo of Airtable. I also use, the Google Docs and Google Spreadsheets when I have to share stuff. In particular, just for script writing, I use something called Scrivener.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I kind of use a combination of those three things in order to manage it all.
Okay. I haven't heard of Airtable yet. Is it like a project management tool or something like
Yeah.
that? Like Asana or?
Yeah. You're able to kind of, I haven't used Asana, so I'm not sure what the features are there. But yes, it helps you manage projects. And you,
along with a team?
Yeah, you can share with a team. Yeah. And you can have different looks. So you can have it like as a, like more of like the database looks, but I think there's also one where you could switch it to look a little more like the Trello, the panes boards that they have. Yeah, the boards that they have. Yeah. So there are different looks depending on how you like to kind of organize your data.
Cool. And what other software do you use to edit the program? What kind of equipment?
Yeah, so what we do is I would do a lot of the recording into Pro Tools. So, and okay. That's what I mix and master and everything with. And we go through, our interface is a Universal Audio Apollo 8, and it has very good mic preamps. And we use condenser microphones for the actors. Oh. Very, very nice ones. And then we also use a mid-side mic, which is like a stereo mic. So I add that into the scene to give it more kind of dimension and to make it feel more like you're in it. And then we're very lucky. We got a sponsorship from a microphone company called 3DO, and they're in Washington State. And they gave us a microphone that's called a binaural microphone. And it's like it's like 3D microphone. So they've given us this microphone to use for the series, and we're very lucky to be able to use it. And we're using it for any scene that's inside the Timestorm. So when they're in the helicopter, we use the 3D microphone, so it feels like you're in it.
Wow.
Yeah, and that hasn't been. We just recorded those, so you don't hear those yet on the first 5 episodes. When we re-release it, you'll hear a difference. Yeah, you'll hear a difference. It's gonna sound better.
And you have your own studio,
yeah,
right, to write the
we do it at home. We have a studio, like an office studio that we have. But if we're recording at a kitchen table, we'll record at the kitchen table. We'll bring the microphones out. I'll run mic lines out to the table, and we'll record at the kitchen table. And I have like baffles to kind of help with sound, to kind of make it drier in the room, and to try to keep out the sounds from outside from coming in. But sometimes you can't help if somebody turns on a leaf blower. You can't stop that. But anything else, we do a pretty good job of keeping it very dry.
When you said condenser mics,
they pick up everything.
Really capture.
I know they do. So that's why we need to really make sure that we keep it dry as possible when we need it to be. So,
wow. Yeah. And what has been the best part of producing this show?
It's just being able to tell a story like this. This is a story I don't think I would be able to tell on stage. It needed to be a series when we decided that we wanted the twins to go back and search their own history. We knew we needed to make it a longer story. And when we really wanted to dive into the sci-fi of it, we realized audio was perfect because, you can just imagine, your imagination is endless. So whatever you want the Timestorm to be, it's whatever you want to be. And also I think right now, we are not saying what Benny and Alexa look like. So, a kid, any kid can think, hear the voice and make up what they look like. And I think that that's something really exciting to kind of have, especially, because Puerto Ricans, we look like everything. And I think that's a beautiful thing to have in audio, that openness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's been amazing to be able to work with many friends and actors, Latinx friends, actors. It's really exciting that we are an all Latinx team. We're behind the scenes, we're Latinx, we're writing it, we're producing it, we're voicing it all authentically. And that's been really a beautiful experience as well.
And what has been the most important takeaway while producing the show, Timestorm, that you could share with other podcasters, like fiction writers like yourself?
So I would say if you are thinking about producing audio fiction or audio drama, start small. Start with like a small cast, a short piece. Produce those pieces, get your feet wet, understand how the production of that works. Because especially if you have experience with other podcasts, like nonfiction, it's very different, especially if you're going to be doing full cast, if you're going to be adding Foley and soundscaping everything. It's a different process. The order that you do things is a little different. So just understand that process on a smaller scale first before jumping into something like an ongoing series. That's one thing. And that was advice we received early on, and we were so glad we followed it. And then also when you do get to that, if you do want to take the leap and try an ongoing series, try like getting as much of the development done up front. Really, get the entire series kind of broadly outlined. Write as much of the first season as possible. If you can write the whole thing, or at least outline the whole thing before getting into the production studio and starting to record the episode 1. You just want to know as much of your story as possible. It's really going to help in the end. And then just, listen to what's out there. There's some great stuff. I would say you want to know what's out in the landscape already and listen broadly. Listen to stuff for kids, listen to stuff sci-fi, even if it's not a genre, listen to something. You might learn something. You might learn how they use music differently in one audio drama or even a podcast, and you might spark something for you.
Yeah, and I've got to say, there's a really great resource for audio drama and fiction. Her name is Elena Fernandez Collins, and she's a Boricua, and
she's the podcast creator.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's wonderful, and she gives really good recommendations for audio drama and podcasts in general. She's a really great resource and a really great person. So she has her own website called Audio Dramatic, and she has a newsletter, and she's on Twitter. So I recommend following her.
And I think her website is her name. So ElenaFernandezCollins.com.
Yep. I'm seeing to see maybe I can have her in the future here in my program.
Yeah,
she'd be great.
Yeah, she'd be great.
So where can people find out more about Cocotazo Media and your future projects?
So we have a website. It is cocotazomedia.com.
I love the name.
Thank you. And we're also on Twitter and Instagram at Cocotazo Media. And we also have a Facebook page as well. So you could find us at any of those places.
Cocotazomedia.com.
Yep.
Okay, and you have the Twitter. And now we know that we have to wait till August to know what else happened to Alexa and Benito.
Yes. And I don't want to, just so everyone knows, we're going to drop a new trailer in a couple of weeks. And we're going to be, so we don't confuse everybody, we're going to be pulling the episodes and just launching the new trailer. And then once we drop everything in August, then you'll have the whole story. But we will be doing a multi-episode drop on our launch day. So you'll get a nice chunk of the story.
Correct. But it gave us time for those people that haven't listened to the show yet to get up to date, get up to speed with the story.
Absolutely.
So that's good. I want to congratulate you both for what you're doing. I know that this opens so many possibilities for actors and for so many people, creative people, that doing a podcast, it's a way of doing something else and get your stories out to the people that needs to hear it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I hope to hear some audio dramas coming from Puerto Rico soon too. I mean, it'll be really great.
Yes,
be really great.
Yes. I'm trying. I have a good friend. She's a writer.
Good.
And I'm working with her to see if she launches some of her stories as a podcast.
That'd be great.
Sometime.
That'd be great. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
And she works with actors as well. So I'm working on it.
Good,
yeah.
good.
I mean, that's what's beautiful, I think, about the indie side of all of this. We're hearing so many voices, and it's so important to hear so many voices from across the world, all different cultures. Just inclusive storytelling is amazing to see in the audio drama space.
Definitely. There's a whole new world out there, right? In the podcasting world with the audio drama, audio fiction.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, and it keeps growing too. We keep seeing more and more. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time right now.
What are your favorite shows right now, podcast shows that you listen to? That maybe we can take a note here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for fiction, I'm going to give you a couple of fiction titles that are for kids because that's one of our specialties. We really love 6 Minutes from Gen Z Media. 6 Minutes. And then let me see what else. In terms of, so I'll give you a couple of non-fiction titles as well. We listen, of course, to Latino USA to keep up on news and culture. And what else do you like to listen to?
Well, musically, I listen to Latino USA is great, and sometimes they'll have music episodes that I love. But I also listen to All Songs Considered, which is another great music podcast. There is. I'm looking at my podcast feed right now to see what we have. There's some great audio fiction as well. Dania said 6 Minutes. There's The Disappearance of Mars Patel is another great one.
Yeah, and I mentioned before, The Truth for Audio Fiction is a great anthology series. I listen to Zigzag out of Radiotopia. And Flyest Fables is another great show. Morgan Givens is a very talented storyteller.
Can you repeat that name again?
Flyest Fables.
Flyest Fables.
Yeah. And Morgan Givens is the one who creates that. He's a very strong storyteller. And it's very magical. There's a present day storyline and then kind of magical, fantastical worlds that the characters go into as well.
Yeah. And then, I think we should also mention the other 5 podcasts that are in with us in the Google Podcast program, which are all really wonderful. We have the Color Girl Beautiful, which is going to be released at the end of the program. Then we have Afro Queer is another one. And they're out of Africa. There is Las Raras, and they're from Chile, and they're an all-Spanish podcast, and they're fantastic. Long Distance, and they're from California, and they're about the Filipino diaspora. And who else? I'm forgetting somebody.
And Who Taught You How to Drive?
Who Taught You How to Drive? And they're from Philadelphia, and they have a very funny podcast about people talking about their stories of how they learned how to drive and about driving a car. So it's pretty funny.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll just add also specifically for anybody looking to do audio drama, Radio Drama Revival is an excellent resource. And Elena, who we mentioned before, is just joined as a co-host with Will Williams. So that's another great source.
Super. I have a super long It's going to be a very long notes for the episode.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I appreciate that. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
So no problem. So again, I want to thank you for your time, taking the time to tell your story here at Pod Queens Latinas. And it's such an amazing story. I was so happy to learn that Puerto Rican made it to this program and got the funding and all this help, these 20 weeks mentoring. I tried this year, but I wasn't elected. But again, great job what you're doing. And I'm looking forward to August to listening to the relaunching of your program.
Gracias, Marieli. We love your series, what you're doing, and we wish you the best with this. This is a great resource.
And yes, thank you. And we hope to, we're gonna hopefully be in Puerto Rico sometime before the end of the year.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe we'll catch up or something.
Then you gotta stop by.
Yeah,
Definitely.
We'd love to. And we thank you for having us on your program.
Oh, thank you for being so generous with the information that you shared. It's been wonderful. It's been magical, like the Timestorm. So, thank you so much. Agradecemos a Dania Ramos y Michael Aquino por concedernos esta entrevista, por acompañarnos y por compartir información tan valiosa sobre la producción de su podcast de ficción Timestorm. Si quieres conocer más sobre Dania y Michael, en la conferencia Podcast Movement que se estará celebrando del 13 al 16 de agosto en Orlando, ambos estarán presentes como conferenciantes hablando un poco más sobre este proyecto. En las notas de este episodio te he incluido una lista de todos los recursos mencionados durante la entrevista. Y si te gustó este episodio, te pido que por favor lo compartas en tus redes sociales para que otras personas puedan beneficiarse del contenido tan valioso que nos brindaron Dania y Michael en esta entrevista. Agradezco siempre tus comentarios, que nos sigas en nuestras redes sociales y en nuestra página de Facebook de Pod Queens Latinas. Te espero en el próximo episodio. Hasta pronto.